This is Reading Addict. In this video, we will talk about a book that I just finished. I started this book 2 days ago and finished it in just 2 days because I had holidays and I devoted my time fully on reading this book. The title is I Must Betray You, and it is by very famous author Ruta Sepetys. This book is based on Romanian history, particularly Romanian Revolution, which occurred in 1989, I believe, in the month of December. In this book, by reading this book, you will understand what is communism and how life is controlled in communism. The plot of this story is completely based on the events of Russian Revolution and why the Russian Revolution occurred at the first place. What were the uh, sequence of events which led to this revolution, where people were ready to die, but they want to get rid of this dictatorship, which is called, which is managed by Nicolae Ceausescu. Nicolae Ceausescu name is very difficult for me to pronounce, and Mother Elena. Both were shot by a firing squad after the revolution by the revolutionaries. So in this book, you will see that how the life of an ordinary person is moved, controlled, dictated by the presence of communism in their day-to-day life. So I will discuss a number of points, and it will be in haphazard order, but also I would like to warn you that I will also reveal some facts which is called like spoilers alert. So it is your discretion that you want to continue watching my video, or you just want to skip to reading this book. If you plan to read this book, just don't watch my video and read this book first, then come back and then read my listen to my points of view, and then we can share or exchange our ideas, because I will give this book 5 out of 5 stars. Initially, as I mentioned, this book is based on Russian Revolution, so you will notice that in the my bad, Romanian Revolution. So you will notice that how the life of ordinary people is controlled. So there is this system which is called Securitate. So they have the spy system in the society and under communism. So every person is kind of an informer. So suppose if there is a neighborhood, there are 50 people living in that neighborhood, almost every person is an informer, kind of an informer. Because when you read this book, you will realize that in this family, there are almost 5 members. One is grandfather, and the main protagonist is Christy. And there are mother and father as well, and Christy has a sister. And you will realize that everybody is kind of an informer, a traitor, and they are informing against their own family members, against their own society members or neighbors. So you can't trust anyone, and there is a constant atmosphere of fear, and you are almost always disturbed by this presence of spy system. Even in your house, when you read this novel, you will realize that even if when you are in your house, you will see that you are talking in whispers, because every person is kind of an informer, like walls have ears. So you just can't trust anyone. So you have your secrets. So in the beginning of this novel, the Christy, the main protagonist, he is in a very cunning way introduced or initiated into this spy system. And security people, they blackmail him, and they simply tell him that like you have broken some laws. So there are laws like in society, you are like, you are not allowed. There are prohibitions, tons of prohibitions. You are not allowed to exchange words with foreigners. You are not allowed to do this or that. There are tons of things. Your whole life is a restriction. Whatever you do, it's kind of a restriction. So in that restriction mode, chances are that you will feel like, breaking some rule every now and then. But as I already mentioned, that there are informers. So whenever you break a rule, people will inform against you. So in the same manner, Christie, one day he was attending his school, and after his school he realized that his principal, they call it school director, he instructs him that there is someone who wants to meet him, and that someone is Securitate, the communist spy system apparatus. The guy, he wants to meet Christie. So he tells Christie that now you have broken some laws, and you have to pay the price. Now you have some options. Either you have to, face the consequences, or you can become an informer and tell us what happens in the society, tell us what people do, who is against the communism, who is against the monarchy. So if you tell us that, we might provide you benefits. And Christie thinks that as he has a grandparent, so that grandparent is very sick, he needs medicine, but they don't have money. There is nothing. So the system is illegal. In order to get money, they usually exchange. Barter system is there. They have some, some illegally gained cigarettes. So they exchange those cigarettes in exchange of medicines. So Christie thinks that if he, deals with the security person, this spy master, then he might, secure some medicine for his grandparent. In this way, he is associated with the system and joins the spy system. But there is a part in him which reminds him that he is always guilty. He's, informing against his own people, so that he has a conscience, and he is not completely dead like other people. Sometimes in such societies, people just sell their conscience. So I will mention one incident when in concentration camp, on the same note, but I'm using a different example. When in the concentration camp, there were Nazis and Jews. When Nazis completely, morally, spiritually destroyed the Jews, so at one point Jews kind of sold their conscience. They had no conscience. The ultimate aim of their life was to protect their own life. So they were kind of unfaithful, but that was, very natural in their state, because they had to procure or preserve themselves before anyone else. So the spirit of survival of the fittest was leading their life. In the same way, in communism, your own life is everything. You give prime most importance to your own life, then you think about others. But there is that guilty part, that guilty conscience, which always reminds you that you are doing wrong. You cannot inform uh, you cannot inform about your, neighbors or friends to that spy system. But this is the situation. Slowly and slowly, things change, and circumstances are developing. There are, other countries where communism is failing, because this system is very oppressive. It shows in the novel that this system is very oppressive. You have no freedom, you have no say, you have no free will. You are kind of, like a machine. You cannot use your own brain. You cannot say anything, rational against the system. Even if your arguments are rational, still it will be considered as treacherous. But after some times, you will realize that in the end of the novel, when other countries are getting rid of this communism system, so in Romania also, people, especially the youth, they think that it's like too much. They can't live in this manner forever, so they have to take some action, and then they start protesting. So whenever there is a protest, there is a change, there is always a cost. People always die in a revolution. So at the end of the novel, you see that the monarchy is destabilized or dismantled, and in that place, a new system is established. But ultimately, and at the end of this novel, they got rid of themselves from that, brutal communist state. So this is what happens in this novel, guys. But there are, events, characters which make this novel very much interesting. And when I started reading this novel, I never knew that I would, in this way learn about Romanian history. Always, since I read Dracula, I always associated Romania with Dracula and vampires. But this is not all about Romania. Romania is much more than that. And Dracula is a fictional character by introduced by Bram Stoker, who was a British, I believe, as per my knowledge. But as per Romanian people, the ultimate Dracula, the ultimate vicious persons are the monarchist Nicolae Ceausescu and Mother Elena. They controlled the lives of Russian people. They almost, crushed them. So you cannot have self-worth, self-confidence under such system where there is no free will. You cannot have independent thought. So by reading this novel, I have, kind of read the Romanian history, and I feel very much fortunate after reading this book, because now I have the understanding of Romanian history. And always, like always, I wanted to read about Romania and its culture. I always associated it with Transylvania, is like related to Dracula, but it is much more than that. And then, like, oh, guys, I believe I have spoken tons of things about this novel. I must be very much haphazard in my presentation of this novel, but I am in love this book, and in future I will definitely try to read this again. This novel starts, in a slow manner, because they have to introduce the characters. So you will see the beginning of the novel is slow, but later on it is extremely fast, and you will never realize that when you have finished this novel. Especially the last part, which is amazing, when you will see revolutionary activities and how people show their confidence, how they are ready to die. So that makes this novel extremely beautiful, and I am so thankful to this author, Ruta Sepetys, who has written this novel and introduced the Romanian history through this novel. So yes, guys, this is, I believe, most of the things about this book. So now we will discuss some main points about this novel. So first of all, as I have already introduced the general plot, it is based on Romanian history when Romania was under communism in the USSR regime, when the Berlin Wall was not broken. And after 2 years, Berlin Wall, I believe on the same year, I'm not sure, very soon, I believe in 1991, when they broke the Berlin Wall. So all these events, in the neighboring countries like Hungary, Czechoslovakia and Bulgaria, all those countries got rid of communism. So guys, here is a point, and I would rather keep my opinion reserved on it. But I think that whatever Marx presented and the implementation of communism, these are two separate phenomena. My opinion on Karl Marx, I would rather keep it reserved. But the implementation plays a very important role when you try to implement an idea, especially like communism. So your implementation, sometimes you implement it wrongly. So implementation can crush a very bright idea. So we will not dig deeper, but I will keep my opinion reserved because I have high regards for Marx. So retroactively, if you talk about Marx, people kind of say bad things about him. This is their wish. But Marx wrote his Communist Manifesto in 1848. So you have to understand the circumstances of that time period if you want to talk about Marx impartially. What were the prevalent circumstances at that time? What was the factory system, and how prevalent the exploitation of workers was there? You have to be mindful of that fact, and then we have to, judge Marxism from that angle. Okay, we will not dig deeper into that. And the next point is, as I already mentioned, by reading this book, you will learn about Romanian history. Guys, go for it. It is not a lengthy book, but I believe you will finish this book very fast. And this, you know what? These letters, they are embossed, like you can feel these alphabets. So I like the cover very much, and it is similar to the previous cover of the book that this author has written. All the lights that we can't see, something like that. It is like similar to that cover as well. So let's discuss about next point, because I have made some list and I want to talk about all those points concerning these novels and concerning Romania. So Dracula, I love Dracula, especially his personality, his viciousness, and I just love how he has been presented by Bram Stoker in that novel Dracula. That presentation is like enthralling, and I am completely in love that book. For many months or many years, I have been trying to reread that book, but I couldn't find some time. But I believe very soon I will try my best to find some time, and then I will read it once again, because that's what I want. Because when I get absorbed into Dracula, it gives me vibes. So those vibes are interesting. And then, as I already mentioned, the main characters are Christie. Christie is in love with Lily, or you can say that. And they are, very young. They are in love. But as I already said, there is this, spy system. Because of that, they face some difficulty in executing their love. And when you will read this, you will understand what I'm trying to say. And then the next point is, as I already mentioned, the start is very slow of this book, but the events are fast paced later on. Then the apparatus of Securitate. Securitate is, like Gestapo of Nazi Germany's. I believe if you have read Nazi literature, you have known about Gestapo, the secret police services, who was extremely brutal, and their mechanisms, their devices were extremely cruel. They were callous. So they were beyond any, justice. They were beyond judiciary. So they had immense power, and the leader of that Gestapo was Heinrich Himmler. So yes, so in this book, there is this Securitate, which is equal to Gestapo. Then you will also see that Christie has a friend who is the son of American diplomat who is posted in Romania. So in this novel, you will see that Christie is writing a manuscript as well. So interesting thing about this book is that this book could never be, realized, could never be presented if that manuscript hadn't written by Christie, the same person who had written that manuscript. So this book is ultimately based on a manuscript. The protagonist who was writing the daily events, his thoughts, his feelings, his understanding of Romanian circumstances and how they are leading their life. So you will see so many things in this novel, and I believe at the end of this book you will fall in love with this book, and like me, you will also recommend this book to other people as well. I wanted to talk about more, but I believe this is sufficient. It is already a very lengthy video. I don't post such lengthy videos, but I wanted to keep on talking about this book because this book deserves, constant talk about the events. So guys, I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.